British Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrives in Beijing for official visit to China. Fears grow of an imminent escalation of violence in South Sudan, with civilians at risk of being denied aid and medical care. And how Kenyans are exploring new weight loss options after the WHO adds injections to its essential medicines list. I'm Beatrice Marshall on Africa Live. Welcome to the program. We'll bring you the details on those stories in just a moment. But first, here's Ramanyang with the day's business headlines. Rama.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. Here's what's coming up in the next half hour. Zambia has unlocked nearly $200 million in the latest tranche of its IMF loan.
Has arrived in Beijing for an official visit, and this is also the first visit by a British Prime Minister in 8 years, drawing wide attention from both political and business circles. And this visit, at the invitation of Chinese Premier Li Qiang, runs from January 28th to 31st. And according to Chinese Foreign Ministry, Chinese President Xi Jinping will meet with Starmer, and Premier Li Qiang and top legislator Zhao Leji would also hold talks with him, exchanging views on bilateral ties and issues of common concern.
China is willing to take this visit as an opportunity to enhance political mutual trust with the UK, deepen practical cooperation, jointly open a new chapter in the healthy and stable development of China-UK relations, and work together to make due efforts and contributions to world peace, security, and stability.
And Starmer will also meet with leaders in Shanghai. British media report that Starmer is leading a large delegation of senior ministers and also top business leaders, underlying the importance that London places on resetting ties with Beijing. They also describe this trip as a diplomatic moment, as both sides are set to restart the so-called golden era commercial dialogue mechanism. And observers also view this visit as a turning point, potentially setting the tone for China-UK relations in the coming years. And both sides are seeing this visit as a way to expand collaboration and to stabilize ties and find more pragmatic path forward. Lucy Ray, CGTN, Beijing.
China and the UK are important economic and trade partners. Let's take a look at the economic ties between the two countries.
China and the UK are important economic and trade partners. In 2025, the trade in bilateral goods topped $100 billion. Services trade exceeded $30 billion. And two-way investment stock reached nearly $68 billion. Since taking office, the UK Labour government has said it seeks a consistent, long-term and strategic relationship with China, with dialogue and cooperation at its core. China has also expressed readiness to deepen political trust and practical cooperation.
Amid a complex and volatile international landscape, it serves the shared interests of both peoples and contributes to global peace, stability and development if China and the United Kingdom, as permanent members of the UN Security Council, can maintain communication and strengthen cooperation.
Officials say that amid a rise in global trade protectionism, both China and the UK remain committed to free trade and the multilateral trading system. The two sides aim to leverage their complementary strengths and expand collaboration in green energy, healthcare, creative industries, and intelligent manufacturing. China has also signaled its readiness to work with the UK to create a fair, transparent, and rules-based business environment, pushing China-UK economic and trade ties to a new level.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with Azerbaijan's Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov in Beijing on Wednesday, following the establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries in 2025.
China and Azerbaijan should be strategic partners that prioritize each other, remain reliable, and achieve win-win cooperation. Regardless of how the international situation changes, China will view the development of China-Azerbaijan relations from a strategic perspective and advance bilateral and multilateral cooperation based on the long-term interests of the two peoples.
Next year, we are celebrating the 35th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations. And all these years, we observed the extremely positive trajectory in our relations.
Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo has concluded his visit to China. On Wednesday, Finland's ambassador to China, Mikko Kinnunen, briefed the media on the outcomes of the trip. Our Cao Chufeng has more.
I'm now at the Finnish embassy in China, and one of the key messages delivered by the Finnish ambassador is that the two countries enjoy a solid relationship and that the Prime Minister's visit was aimed at deepening mutual understanding and fostering more cooperation.
All in all, Finland and China have very long, strong, solid relations. And because we have constant dialogue also between the top leaders of our country.
Finland was among the earliest countries to establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. Prime Minister Orpo's visit reaffirmed the political trust built over more than 7 decades of bilateral ties.
The visit was successful for Finland. The Prime Minister had meetings with President Xi, Premier Li, as well as with the Speaker of the NPC, Mr. Zhao Ji. It is extremely important to be able to convey Finland's views and policies on certain important issues. And it is important to learn what does China think.
China is Finland's largest trading partner in Asia, while Finland is China's third largest partner in the Nordic region. During this visit, the two sides signed 11 agreements between companies, along with 6 memorandums of understanding between their governments.
Company agreements signed, the immediate value of them, I think, was a double-digit number in euros. We speak of millions. Government-to-government memorandums of understanding, there was a rather traditional one related to animal diseases and export of meat, pork, chicken. There was another one which I think is very modern, has to do with the sustainable building.
Beyond traditional trade, both sides see growing potential in innovation, green development, and sustainable solutions. With multiple agreements now in place, Finnish officials say the next step will be turning high-level consensus into concrete cooperation among companies, institutions, and local governments. Cao Chufeng, CGTN, Beijing.
As the Chinese New Year draws closer, messages of goodwill are coming in from leaders around the world. The president of the Central African Republic, Faustin Archange Touadéra, has extended his greetings to the Chinese people, while also highlighting the growing partnership between the two countries. Here is his message.
This Chinese New Year, the Year of the Horse, embodies the horse as a powerful animal that possesses great momentum and drive, and I believe this will be a year of continuous progress and remarkable achievements for the Chinese people. The Central African Republic values its cooperation with China under President Xi Jinping's leadership. China's commitment to supporting African development has enabled our country to deliver important projects, particularly in healthcare infrastructure, with China's strong support.
To South Sudan now, where aid agencies are warning that renewed fighting could cut off aid and medical care to thousands of people. This comes after the government ordered civilians and aid groups to leave opposition heads.
Control areas as soon as possible.
The fighting is putting the 2018 peace agreement, which ended a brutal 5-year civil war, at serious risk, although the government says it's still committed to the process.
The government of the Republic of South Sudan reiterates its commitment to fully implement the revitalized agreement on the resolution of conflict.
We are not at war. And I said this during my interview with the BBC this morning. The SPLA-IO, the spokesperson, said they are advancing toward Juba. So we are only stopping the advance of the SPLA-IO because we also have the right of self-defense, and therefore in the process of practicing the right of self-defense, you will see us fighting to make sure that we stop the advancement. But the country is not in war. We are not in war.
But it's the civilian population that is bearing the brunt of the violence. Doctors Without Borders is warning that dwindling medical supplies in conflict zones could soon leave thousands without critical care.
We are operating what is called en route in the area where we cannot access. But the problem is that we cannot resupply our hospital. So once the stock will be over, if we have no access and if we are not able to provide new supply, medical supply there, then it will be very difficult. So far, we succeeded to cope with what we have.
The UN also echoed concerns over the dire humanitarian situation. The ongoing violence is not just a military threat, but also a public health crisis, with critical services on the brink of collapse.
Even now, as we speak today, we are perilously close to a civil war than we were 5 to 6 years ago. We are in a situation where the peace agreement is in threat. And when every stakeholder understands that keeping this peace agreement as the center of all our actions and try to implement it despite all the difficulties, that's the only way forward. But despite that, the peace agreement is today challenged in more ways than one.
With national elections planned for later this year, observers fear renewed fighting could further destabilize the country. Sharon Baranga, CGTN.
And for more on the situation in South Sudan, we earlier spoke to our correspondent, Patrick Oyet, in Juba.
Many people have left the areas. Some people have crossed to Ethiopia, where they have gone now as refugees, struggling, of course, to carry the elderly people, struggling to carry children. They have left behind the little harvest they had, because when there was relative peace, at least some people farmed. They have left this behind. They have gone. Some youth have moved to the cattle camps, because the cattle camps are normally far away from villages. They hope they will be safer there. And there's a lot of suffering. There are some people who have moved to some other places where they have some presence of UN to camp there. So people are moving away. This is what civil society groups and some ordinary South Sudanese people in Jonglei state are telling us. Here in South Sudan, the call is all about dialogue. The church is calling for dialogue. The Muslims are calling for dialogue. The African Union here in South Sudan is calling for dialogue. IGAD, of course, is the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, has the special envoy for South Sudan, who is here this week meeting with officials, and his call has been on dialogue. The United Nations is saying it is not just that dialogue is an option. It is the only option that is there for the current situation. That war is not an option. It can never solve problem. It has been tried several times and it has never solved the problem. So many South Sudanese people hope the only way out is for the political parties, political groups to dialogue, because the problems that are happening in Jonglei and other parts of the country are only happening as a result of disagreement of politicians in the capital, Juba. If the politicians in Juba can dialogue and come together, all these problems can be resolved.
Thousands of people have been displaced from Mozambique's Manhica district following prolonged rains in southern Africa. The rising water levels have wreaked havoc in the coastal town, cutting off major roads. Video footage shows residents wading through knee-deep water and navigating collapsed roads while boats ferry essential supplies back and forth. Efforts are underway to provide relief at a displacement center where people have sought refuge. Experts have warned that continued efforts will be needed to address the extensive damage to infrastructure, homes and crops in the region. Residents who have sought temporary refuge at a training institution expressed their fears.
They rescued us on the 4th day by helicopters and flew us to an island. And from there, they took us to this school. So we have suffered a lot at the island. There is nothing there, and we don't know if we will find a place to stay there when we return. As we escaped what has been destroyed at home, we would like that God opens the way. Because others do not have a place to sleep, no blanket, the island is in devastation.
The UN is warning that hunger is intensifying across West and Central Africa, with Nigeria among the hardest hit. Millions of children are now at risk of malnutrition as food insecurity deepens. While international aid faces growing pressure, attention is shifting to how governments can step up protection to vulnerable populations. CGTN's Kelechi Kalam report from Abuja.
It's been almost 1 month since Finland children in West and Central Africa could suffer from malnutrition this year, while more than 3 million people are expected to face emergency levels of food insecurity. Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon and Niger account for nearly 77% of those affected. In Nigeria's northeast, the situation is particularly dire.
Across Nigeria, humanitarian needs are rising. Families are facing increased food insecurities. Children are facing alarming level of malnutrition. Civilians in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe continue to live in the fear of increased violence attack.
According to the UN, nearly 35 million Nigerians could face food insecurity in the coming seasons, with more than 3 million children at risk of severe acute malnutrition. While aid agencies are scaling back due to funding constraints, the UN says a shift is now underway, placing greater responsibility on national and local authorities. As international humanitarian funding continues to shrink, the UN says Nigeria is entering a transition phase, one that puts government leadership, domestic financing and community-driven solutions at the center of the response to hunger and malnutrition. The government says humanitarian assistance must go beyond emergency relief and focus on long-term solutions.
Humanitarian response must not remain as an end in itself. Humanitarian action must serve as a bridge, supporting stabilization, restoring dignity, and enabling households and communities to move permanently out of vulnerability and poverty.
Authorities say priorities now include boosting food production, strengthening social protection systems, supporting local farmers, and expanding nutrition programs, especially for children and pregnant women. But for families like Zara's, survival still depends on continued and immediate support. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Abuja, Nigeria.
And across Mali and the wider Sahel region, communities are observing the first International Day of Peaceful Coexistence today. The UN Day was proclaimed to encourage dialogue, understanding and respect for differences. Mamadou Tapili brings us more from Mali's capital, Bamako.
Across villages and towns in Mali,
people are observing International Day of Peaceful Coexistence as a daily commitment. This day offers modern symbolism. In offices, schools, and community gatherings, it's an opportunity to revive dialogue, promote tolerance, and strengthen inclusion in a country still scarred by extremist violence.
Sometimes, without meaning to, we hurt our neighbor. That is why in our culture, it is recommended to seek understanding first with the person who lives closest to you. For there to be peace in our surroundings, everyone needs to get along. But if there are tensions or disagreements here and there, life will never be pleasant. That is why we have the duty to constantly remind people of good conduct in society.
Education is also playing a crucial role in shaping a culture of peace. Schools are integrating lessons on tolerance, civil responsibility, and non-violence into their daily curriculum.
We teach children the value of tolerance by showing them that tolerance leads to forgiveness, solidarity, and acceptance of one another, and also contributes to peace among people in the religious sphere. It also helps to resolve conflicts between countries. Tolerance is also a source of peace.
Youth leaders are finding innovative ways to keep young people away from extremist influence.
We help young people understand that their strength and value lie in diversity. As Amadou Hampati Ba said, the beauty of a carpet comes from the variety of its colors. So the more we embrace our differences, come together, accept one another and join hands, the stronger we become. So today, Evel Mali's approach is focused on working to promote this vision.
Local media are also playing a positive role. Community radio stations across Mali broadcast programs that promote dialogue, feature local success stories, and counter extremist narratives, giving a voice to moderation and tolerance.
My topics are not only about civil society. They're also relevant to leaders. Interactions with listeners help leaders understand the concerns of the population and think about appropriate solutions. We see that right after the broadcasts, the recommendations and suggestions from our listeners influence the decisions of our authorities.
Malians are proving that peace is not only about the absence of conflict, but about actively building understanding, trust and tolerance as they build a better country for everyone. Mamadou Tapili, CGTN, Bamako.
The Democratic Republic of Congo is also marking Peaceful Coexistence Day with a one-of-a-kind ceremony to foster peace in the restive East. King of the Bukumu chieftain gathered his local leaders, representatives of non-indigenous communities and other community members to discuss various issues, including tribal discrimination and peaceful coexistence among communities. Crystal Onkeo has more.
On the royal hill of Buhimba in Nyarigongo territory of North Kivu, a steady stream of drumbeats welcomes the king's guests. They stream in from all the villages in the Bukumu chiefdom to heed the king's call. Flanked by guardians of customs clad in white attire, Mwami Isaac Kahembe IV expressed his desire to foster peaceful coexistence.
I, King Kahembe IV, continue the culture of King Kahembe I. My primary role, my very first role above all else, even before my political role, is to ensure the continuity of the customs and culture of unity, love and coexistence, because it is unity and love that will bring us development. I have convened this meeting in order to ensure the continuity of these customs.
During the gathering, attendees shared the king's traditional wine as a symbol of their allegiance to his vision of unity and rejection of divisive politics. The audience, particularly non-indigenous residents of Bukumu, expressed optimism about a future free from ethnically motivated conflict.
The king has just spoken to us against tribalism, because before there was tribal discrimination, but now we praise God because our king is fighting this tribal discrimination. We no longer see tribalism, which is why today, as you can see, all communities are living together in harmony and love, because our king wants us all to be united, so together we can combat tribalism.
There has been a growing call for peaceful coexistence between communities in the region, Religious leaders called for peace during a recent funeral ceremony for victims of clashes between the Congolese armed forces and M23 rebels in Masisi.
With pain in my heart, I ask Muslims and non-Muslims, all Congolese people in general, to make a great effort to fight tribalism, because discrimination and tribalism will lead us into great danger. Look, how many people have we lost already? May God have mercy on the souls of our dead. We implore you, Muslims and non-Muslims, to love one another. To accept one another, to unite so that we may be accepted.
The World Health Organization has added weight loss injections to its essential medicines list for the treatment of obesity. It has also issued guidelines advising that the drugs be used in conjunction with diet, exercise and counseling. This comes as demand for the injections gains popularity as a quick weight loss solution. And as Crystal Onkeo reports, doctors are warning users to follow medical guidance in order to mitigate adverse effects.
An acrimonious relationship with the scale is something that Murugi Munyi, a popular Kenyan influencer, podcaster and content creator, can relate to.
From as young as 16, I can remember being on a weight loss journey. I have been overweight probably my whole life.
Across town, Wangari Kuria recounts her own struggle.
I've taken a balloon, the one you swallow, a gastric balloon, so that it helps you not eat as much. I have sewn my teeth together from a dentist so that you just eat liquids. I have done dieting, I've done keto diet, carnivore diet, I have done gym, I have done extensive things.
These two women are among the growing population fueling the demand for weight loss injections known as GLP-1 drugs in Kenya. Murugi gets her injections from a hospital based here in the capital.
I saw so many people have been on this drug, and even people who had been struggling with weight loss for a really long time had seen success with it. And I was like, you know what, I want to give this a try. And I get an injection weekly. I have lost a lot of weight.
Kuria does her own injections.
In September, I started my journey after I traveled to the States and realized there is a solution. So when I came into the country, I bought my first quick pen and I started my journey.
The Kenya Pharmacy and Poisons Board has warned against unsupervised off-label use of semaglutide for weight loss due to serious health risks. This warning has not deterred its use, but it has encouraged many people to get their injections in medical facilities.
Generally, the number of clients we see ranges from around 50 to around 100 patients in a month span. We have a lot of female patients who are struggling with PCOS, infertility, hypertension, diabetes. Those are the kind of profiles we see day in, day out.
Specialists say not everyone qualifies for the injections, and screening is crucial before treatment can begin.
Maybe they have psychological issues, so we see how is your kidney, how is your liver, before we start anyone on any said treatment.
Health practitioners stress the importance of medical supervision.
Well, the main challenge we have as medical practitioners is control or regulation of the drug. Because with the cost, there tend to be a lot of counterfeits. So people want to bring cheaper drugs. The other thing that will be a problem is dosing.
Meanwhile, injection use is projected to increase. In December, the World Health Organization added a new set of drugs for obesity and diabetes to its essential medicines list. The UN agency says GLP-1 can be part of a long-term obesity treatment strategy, combining medication with counseling, diet, and exercise. The health body also called for the production of generic drugs to lower the cost and increase access to the drugs. This marks a shift in the way the UN agency has previously framed obesity treatment.
Like now, it's estimated about 28% of the adult population is either overweight or obese. Women making up to 13 to 14% of the same, and men about 3.5 to 4% of that number.
Some weight loss injection users say they have faced criticism for their choice, but health experts say that it is a lifeline for specific types of patients.
It's not a drug for lazy people. They have tried a diet, they have tried to exercise, even going to the gym, amongst other things. There's also a genetic predisposition, it could be hormonal issues, so the drug helps you to control those things.
There have been reports of adverse effects of these drugs. Novo Nordisk, the Ozempic drug maker, is facing mounting lawsuits in the US, where hundreds of users have sued, alleging side effects like stomach paralysis, vomiting, and sudden vision loss. Kenyan users say they've experienced constipation and mild nausea, diarrhea, slight headaches, appetite suppression, vomiting, palpitations, and even hair loss. Specialists say that while a few side effects are expected, there's little cause for alarm when taking the drugs under the guidance of a qualified doctor.
In our practice, it's still rare, still also globally still a rare complication. But how do we mitigate such side effects? One, I'll say, before you start, get it prescribed from a professional who knows what they're doing, either an endocrinologist, a diabetologist, or ourselves who are obesity specialists.
According to the WHO guidelines for treating obesity, the injection should be used along with other behavioral therapies like exercise, diet, and counseling. It states the treatment is limited to adults and not suitable for pregnant women, and warns that medication alone is not enough to solve the obesity problem. The guidelines also stress the importance of fair access to GLP-1 therapies and the prepping of health systems for the use of these medicines. It warns that without deliberate policies, access to the drugs could worsen already existing health gaps. Crystal Onkeo, CGTN.
As urbanization accelerates across Africa and the Middle East, Morocco is emerging as a regional frontrunner in smart city development, placing smart transport at the heart of its urban strategy. The country is reportedly investing heavily in intelligent traffic systems, data-driven public transport, and major rail projects to improve mobility. Adnan Chauchi has more.
Morocco is ramping up investment in large-scale mobility infrastructure, with railway projects at the center of its urban transport strategy. These projects are designed to ease congestion, improve daily commuting, and strengthen connectivity across the country's largest metropolitan area.
His Majesty the King, may God assist him, also presided on Wednesday, September 24th, at the prefecture of the Hey Hassini district in Casablanca over the launch of major structuring railway projects with a significant impact on mobility with Greater Casablanca, with a total cost of 20 billion dirhams.
Authorities are upgrading railway stations and advancing plans to extend the high-speed rail line, boosting intercity mobility and easing pressure on road networks.
The ministry has a vision that includes several priorities, notably upgrading a number of railway stations, as well as working on the development of a high-speed train. It will at least reach Marrakesh.
Cities such as Casablanca, Rabat and Marrakesh are deploying smart traffic systems using sensors, AI and cameras to manage traffic in real time, adjust signals, detect incidents and improve mobility and road safety.
The city is smarter, public transport is smoother, better and faster.
AI-assisted cameras, sensors and systems have transformed traffic in the city. Cutting-edge technological and sustainable solutions have made our commutes better.
Public transport networks are also benefiting from data-driven planning, with city authorities using real-time information to better manage buses, trams and key transport corridors, particularly during peak hours.
Morocco's smart city development objectives include but are not limited to Casablanca, Rabat, Marrakesh and Tangier. Morocco holds ambitions to become a regional frontrunner in these projects.
Officials say Morocco's smart city push extends beyond flagship projects in Casablanca, Rabat, Marrakesh and Tangier. There are also plans to expand to additional cities as the country steps up preparations for co-hosting the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Experts say the massive tournament will be a major boost to the country and act as a catalyst to accelerate digital mobility and urban innovation nationwide. Aden Shawishi, CGTN.
Well, let's now go to Ram Manyang for a look at the day's business news. Ram.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. Here's what's coming up in the world of money. Zambia gets a $190 million tranche of its loan from the International Monetary Fund. And gold prices continue to hit a record high of $5,300 as the US dollar continues to slide.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanata, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa. So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back to the program. Let's start in Zambia. The International Monetary Fund has approved the sixth and final review of Zambia's extended credit facility program. That paves the way for the final disbursement of about $190 million. And that brings the total amount disbursed under this loan to $1.7 billion since the loan was agreed to in 2022. The program was originally for a $1.3 billion loan. It was expanded later on to help the country recover from a devastating debt default back in November 2020. Zambia initially sought a one-year extension but later decided against it, allowing the arrangement to expire as planned. The International Monetary Fund says Zambia's economic outlook remains positive, with growth forecast at over 5% in recent years and continuing into 2026. On to commodities now. Gold prices broke records again on Wednesday, with spot gold and April gold futures rising over $5,300 per ounce for the very first time. Now, this came only 2 days after they hit the $5,000 an ounce threshold. The gold rally extended along with weakening confidence in the United States dollar, rising geopolitical tensions, and concerns about the future independence of the U.S. Federal Reserve. The dollar, for the record, did fall to a four-year low on Wednesday after the American President Donald Trump said that the currency's value was great. His words, not mine. He said it was great when asked whether it had declined too much. Institutions and banks, including Goldman Sachs, now expect gold to rise further, considering limited supply of that commodity and a much more cautious stance among investors. On to West Africa. Nigeria is Africa's largest oil producer, but it still depends heavily on imported refined fuels. Even with expanding local refining capacity led by the Dangote refinery, more than half of the refined fuel used in the country is still imported from somewhere else. That imbalance is now raising questions about supply chains, costs and the pace of Nigeria's energy transition and its move towards energy independence. CGTN's Kelechi Emekalam tells us more from Abuja.
Latest data from Nigeria's downstream regulator show imported petrol continues to dominate domestic supply. In December 2025, imports made up 57% of fuel consumed nationwide. That's about 42 million litres every day. Local refineries, led by Dangote, supply the remaining 43%, roughly 32 million litres.
There is a continuous demand for the product. not just in Nigeria, but around the West Africa region. So the need for
are influenced by reserve levels and strong regional.
In terms of the production costs, in terms of the haulage cost, in terms of other political and macroeconomic indices within the country.
Policymakers say boosting domestic refining is central to reducing fuel imports and protecting foreign reserves. But industry players argue that until crude supply to refineries become more reliable and transport networks improve, imports will remain part of Nigeria's fuel mix. Experts also highlight policy gaps and market incentives that continue to favor imported fuel. Marketers say shipments from abroad help stabilize supply and prices across the region. But supporters of domestic refining insist Nigeria can meet its needs if investment flows steadily, regulations are enforced, and the downstream sector becomes fully integrated.
It is possible for us to service the Nigerian market locally, even the West African region locally, but it will take a lot of serious commitment. There's nothing around this conversation that is not captured in the PIA as it stands today. And what we need to push in our conversations and even at leadership at government level is to ensure that it is fully implemented in the sector.
Over the past year, Nigeria imported an estimated 12.69 billion litres of petrol. Although volumes are lower than previous years, the bills still pressure foreign exchange reserves and energy security. Nigeria's push towards fuel self-sufficiency is gaining momentum, but for now, dependence on imports continue to raise questions, even as local production climbs. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Abuja, Nigeria.
The revival of a key transport corridor stalled for many years by funding shortfalls seems to be back on track. The Lobito Atlantic Railway Line has secured a multi-billion-dollar financing package. As CGTN's Julie Shai now tells us that funding unlocks the long-delayed rehabilitation of a logistics line that links the Copper Belt in Central Africa to ports on the Atlantic Ocean.
Investment is gathering pace for one of Africa's most ambitious trade corridors. $753 million in loans has been secured for the Lobito Atlantic Railway. Most of the funding comes from the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation, but African backing is also firmly part of the deal, with $200 million thrown in the ring from the Development Bank of Southern Africa.
International investors are important, be it from China or from Western countries, but African investors, they understand the local peculiarities. They understand some of the issues around risk. Locally. So they even give comfort to international financiers when they work hand in hand together to syndicate deals.
Of critical minerals from centuries.
And they shouldn't just be corridors to facilitate external benefit, in this case, the Western world.
We cannot continue being a continent that sends cheap minerals out and bring in finished products. We should be developing those products right here in Africa, because when we do that, we create jobs for everyday Africans. We create opportunity, we create businesses, but we are also able to improve our own development.
The deal marks a turning point for a project that has long struggled to move beyond incremental upgrades, but also signals a shift in the broader relationship between the United States and Africa. Tensions have been high following President Donald Trump's return to the Oval Office and his decision to cut aid to the continent.
It might open the doors to other investments. However, it does not bring to an end the existing tension. Since there are economic activities taking place, that in itself is good enough.
Total investment now stands at more than $6 billion, positioning Lobito.
And for India, it essentially means much greater market access to the 450 million consumer base in the EU. Ravinder Bala tells us more.
It is a handshake that ties economies, strategy and shared values more strongly. The India-European Union or EU trade deal is a step forward towards shaping a new global order.
This free trade agreement will boost investment between India and the European Union. It will help forge new innovation partnerships and will strengthen supply chains at a global level, which means that this is not just a trade agreement, it is a new blueprint for shared prosperity.
Prime Minister, distinguished friend, we did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. We are creating a market of 2 billion people. And this is the tale of two giants, the world's second and fourth largest economies. Two giants who choose partnership in a true win-win fashion.
After nearly 2 decades of on-off negotiations, the deal is expected to double EU exports by 2032 by eliminating or reducing tariffs on nearly 97% of traded goods. The EU will cut tariffs on 99.5% Indian goods, with tariffs to be cut to zero on Indian marine goods, leather products, chemicals, rubber, base metals, and gems and jewelry.
The deal will cater to about 1 billion middle to high income consumers and will cater to the market of $25 trillion. So it's a big deal, it's a significant deal, and will, since both the countries already have a good base trade already going on, expanding on it will be easier.
During the 16th India-EU summit, many agreements were inked, including India-EU defense and security partnership.
And the time is right because the geopolitical, the geo-economic, the developmental landscape, I want to focus more on the developmental landscape because partnerships are now emerging as a pivotal tool to redefine economic diplomacy, the world that we face.
The formal signing of the deal will take place within a year after the text of the agreement undergoes a detailed legal vetting process. Ravinder Baba, CGTN, Delhi.
We'll leave it there for the time being, but here's what's coming up at the top of the hour. In global business, we'll be focusing on Kenya. The credit credit ratings agency Moody's has essentially upgraded the country's credit rating with
Here's what's ahead.
Your legend. Sports Scene. Find your game.
And we start with women's football, where Morocco's Asfa club have arrived in London ahead of the inaugural FIFA Women's Champions Cup. They will face Arsenal in a semi-final match that kicks off a few minutes from now. The club qualified for the competition after defeating Cote d'Ivoire's ASEC Mimosa 2-1 in the final of the CAF Champions League. Mohamed Amin Al-Luai's side has been crowned African champions twice, winning the continental title for the first time in 2022 and again last year. In addition to winning 12 Moroccan Cup titles, the Rabat outfit are the most successful club in their league history, with a dozen titles in the last 13 seasons. And we head to the UEFA Champions League now, and defending champions PSG will host Newcastle United in the last match of the league phase, with an automatic spot in the round of 16 on the line. PSG is currently in 6th place and Newcastle in 7th. Both teams have 13 points from 7 matches with identical goal differences, but the French defending champions have scored more goals. PSG suffered their second defeat in the league phase in their 2-1 loss to Sporting CP last week. The League One powerhouse will be boosted by the return of right-back Achraf Hakimi. Newcastle, on the other hand, will be without Joe Linton, while captain Bruno Guimaraes is expected to rejoin the squad. PSG coach Luis Enrique considers the match a must-win, while his opponent Eddie Howe also expressed its importance.
If we win, we surely go through 6th or 7th among the first 8, but I would be happy to lose or draw and go through at 15th place like last year. And if you tell me that I go through in 15th place and we're going to win the Champions League, because the real Champions League begins with the knockout rounds. We in the knockout rounds are an incredible team and we're going to show it. And I would be fine to go through 15th.
You want to experience all the highs and lows that every game and competition brings, but I think the only way you truly enjoy it is if you win and you get through, ultimately. So you're seeking that experience, but you're seeking the reward at the end of it, and we're all determined to try and do as well as we can. This will be a great game for us tomorrow. It'll be another great experience for everybody, but we want to win. I think we're conditioned to think that way.
Elsewhere, Real Madrid will be away to Benfica, hoping to secure 3 points in their final group stage match to finish in the top 8. Real head into the fixture on the back of a commanding 6-1 victory against Monaco last week, which moved them to 3rd in the standings with 15 points. The record 15-time champions trail Bayern Munich by 3 and leaders Arsenal by 6 as they close in on a top 8th finish and direct progression to the round of 16. Alvaro Arbeloa will lead Real against a Benfica side led by coach Jose Mourinho, whom he played under at Real from 2010 to 2013. Both coaches heaped praise on each other ahead of the tie. And in other fixtures on the final league phase match day, Arsenal will be at home against Kairat. PSV will host second-placed Bayern, and Liverpool welcome Karabakh as Italian champions Napoli host Chelsea. Meanwhile, Barcelona will be at home against Copenhagen as Juventus travel to Monaco. Dortmund host Inter Milan, and Manchester City take on Galatasaray at the Etihad. And with just 9 days to the start of the Winter Olympics, International Olympic Committee President Kirsty Coventry has arrived at the Olympic Family Hotel in Milan. She shared her excitement ahead of the competition that will officially open next Friday.
We're very excited to finally be here in Milano Cortina, boots on the ground, feeling very excited about that, and can't wait to get started with everybody. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing you over the next couple of days.
Tennis, and Elena Rybakina defeated Iga Swiatek 7-5, 6-1, to reach the semi-finals at the Australian Open. Swiatek had made a quick start, breaking her opponent in the opening game as she punished the Kazakhs' second serve. But the number 2 seed could not capitalize and immediately surrendered her advantage. Both players held serve until the final game when Swiatek fired into the net to give Rybakina the opening set after almost an hour's play. Rybakina then turned up the heat, using her service game to take the second game of the second set with a crashing forehand into the corner. The Pole was left questioning a marginal line call as Rybakina broke her serve again late in the set before comfortably holding to advance.
Yeah, really happy with the win and happy that it was in straight sets. Was a bit struggling in the first set with the serve, but overall happy that I managed to win it in 2.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm not happy with the result. It was a high intensity match, and first set was tight. Like, few points made the difference. But in second set for sure, like, she improved the serve. She was going for the shots, and it got much tougher.
That is it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send your feedback to the contact on your screen and follow us on our digital media platform. Thank you for watching. Ram Manyang is up next with Global Business. Bye-bye.